Hello, dear friends. I hope you are okay, and we are happy that we are together today at this special webinar. I'm Claudio Brânceanu, and I'm very happy to be here together with you. You are more than 40 people, more than 40 dynamic entrepreneurs. As you know better than me, this period is very special and different for Romanian startups and scale-ups, and you have specific needs in the new context created by the expansion of coronavirus. And your organizations now are different. You have different needs as compared with 2 or 3 months ago, and we are here to help you. I'm glad to be here at the second webinar of the online Creative Minds Academy. I used to work with Romanian firms in media, in communication, in consultancy, and I helped them to grow in Romania, but not only in Romania, also in other markets. And along with me is our special guest, Tim House, certified Scrum Master and also a very good business coach. I talked with Tim yesterday, and he prepared a very nice presentation. But before describing Tim and his skills, I want to present you this very nice program. I know Academia Minților Creative, the Creative Minds Academy, very well. Even at the beginning of this project, I used to work before UniCredit Bank launched this very nice project focused on education. And I remember that I wrote an article and a study when I used to work in media, and that study and article was published in a very nice guide launched and printed by our organizers and special friends from UniCredit Bank. And after this, I was a mentor. I was also a speaker for Academia Minților Creative. And in my opinion, this project is very important for a business environment and for you as participants, because the content is valuable, the special guests are very hands-on, and thirdly, I recommend this community because UniCredit Bank developed a very nice community with this Creative Minds Academia. So, as you know, this project is a financial and entrepreneurship education program launched 3 years ago by UniCredit Bank, a program that adapts to the current context by launching a series of free webinars in order to help you succeed, support, and go on and evolve in this new context created by COVID-19. The Academy is a school where we bring together mentors, professionals like Tim, with many experience in business, entrepreneurs with creative and innovative thinking, case studies. But in my opinion, you have the chance to feel and to discuss directly with this special guest like Tim House. It is important to be said that during these 3 years, more than 500 entrepreneurs participated in this project, in the offline editions. So you will reach through this project a very nice and active community with young people from many verticals, many fields. Now we have together with us people from cybersecurity services, financial services, e-commerce, Horeca, consultancy, and so on. All you have a red line, a common feature. You are all creative, and this is the vision, the mission of this very nice project, to connect creative minds, creative people like you. And we want tomorrow, but also today, but also in the next week, in the next weeks, to have a dialogue. So please share your thoughts and your questions for our special guests. As I said, our special guest is Tim House. He's a certified Scrum Master, a brand specialist. He has an experience in entrepreneurship, in startups, in branding, in communication, and his presentation is focused on teams, on people, and I think this topic is very relevant because 2 months ago, when this crisis started, around 75% of Romanian entrepreneurs were concerned on their teams. They wanted to protect their people. They wanted to stay close to the people and to incentivize them, because all Romanian entrepreneurs dreamt that after this crisis will share the same team. And I think his team's experience, leading international remote teams that span the globe from San Francisco to India, is very relevant today. So I invite you, Tim, for the next 1 hour to have a fruitful dialogue with these nice people from Romania, from my country. We have here more than 40 people, and I'm sure that they will enjoy your presentation and your experience. How are you, Tim?
I'm well, Claudio. Mulțumesc. Thank you very much for the warm introduction. And welcome to everybody who's decided to sign in. It's a really good sign that you're getting involved, looking for information, trying to figure out how you can best support the people that support you. So I'm looking forward to it.
Let's start. It's important for us, dear friends, dear entrepreneurs, to have a direct connection through our chat. So I invite you to address your questions in this private chat from the right, and we can go on. And I invite you to share your feelings, your thoughts, and I'm looking to see your questions here, and I will address these questions to Tim.
All right, thank you. Should we just jump into the agenda? I'll let you know. Hello, everybody. Buonasera. My name is Tim House. I have been in the tech industry for about 20 years. 14 of those is with startups. I'm currently acting as an agile coach, trying to build teams that are self-managing, self-organized, that don't have to be directed and led around, but can be given problems and left alone to solve them. When COVID-19 came in, everything was very disruptive. I'm used to working in the environment with the team, face-to-face, but it was very quick for us to adjust and adapt to this new environment, simply because we're using a methodology that changes the way we think and approach work. So what I'm hoping to do is say hello, do a little check-in, which is something I like to do with my teams to get an idea of where they are, talk a little bit about the new normal, maybe change the way we're looking at this crisis and opportunity. I want to give you some insights on how to be agile and lead an agile company. I'd also like to give you some insights on how to actually cultivate connection with people now that we're so isolated and disparate, so you can empower them to take over and grow in this time of constraint. Ultimately, I want to give you some insight into leading with purpose, so you can ultimately change the game and walk out on the other side of this as a winner instead of somebody who's suffering. So, to the point that Claudio made, this would be great if it was a conversation. I'm sorry I can't see you face to face, but please, as we're having a dialogue, share information. I have a few questions to get us engaged. so we can get some feedback and make sure that the conversation that we're having is one that's related to you. I want this to be more of a dialogue than a monologue. So the first check-in question I'd like to ask you, very simply in the chat, 1, 2, 3. How do you feel about the future of your industry? And I want to keep it vague. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Or are you just indifferent or indecisive? And I'll give you guys 30 seconds just to see how many we can get. Claudio, you can jump in and let me know if you're seeing any trends.
Okay, so the majority is positive, team.
That's excellent.
I'm also positive regarding the opportunities in our country, in Romania. Also focused on educational programs for entrepreneurs. I think now it's a good opportunity window to understand the new needs for entrepreneurs. So we can create new programs, new communities for Romanian startups and scale-ups. I'm positive too.
That's fantastic. Actually, I completely forgot to say thank you to the Academy of Creative Minds, to UniCredit and Brand Minds for inviting me here and for doing what they're doing for entrepreneurs. And I'd like to point out I've spent time in Bucharest and I was overwhelmed. It was prior to the pandemic, just overwhelmed by the energy and enthusiasm that of all the business owners I was meeting. Everybody was out there trying to drive business, give back to Romania, and build something brand new and kind of define the future. So that's great that the same people are getting engaged with this. So let's ask another question, unless anybody wants to have any feedback about that. How are you feeling about your people? When you answer this, could be not whether you like them or dislike them, but are you confident that they're going to be there tomorrow? Do you think you're able to give them the service you want? Do you feel that you even have any control? Or do you know that you have people out there that have your back, really want to figure this thing out and move it forward?
I think this is an important concern for Romanian entrepreneurs, and I've done a study, research 2 months ago, team in Romania, and I surveyed 120 Romanian firms, and around 40% from the total were very keen to their people, but also more than 60% already cut the HR costs. So now it's a special context for them, and many Romanian entrepreneurs had to come to be creative with diverse business decision with influence on people. Mm-hmm. Now, regarding your question, I think we have a mix between positive and negative.
Which is realistic.
Positive, they want to work, Monica says. Yes, we have this desire to work. We are trying to work more efficient in this new context. Even we all work more hours per day. This is my feeling.
Yeah, I know that lifestyle very well. Let's go to the third question, see if it rounds anything out. How are you guys actually feeling about being remote? About the way this is working, how teams are working, just everything that kind of surrounds being remote in this new circumstance.
One special entrepreneur present here together today said that he's motivated to work in the new context, to be creative and offer the same quality of the services. Maria is trying to adapt to the new situation and to find new solutions to be in contact. Elia said that they work from home, but not all have this opportunity.
Right. So that is important. I mean, the internet was something that was supposed to bring us together. It's kind of pulled us all apart with avatars and social media, this and that. And now all of a sudden we're physically separated and the internet's actually doing what it was supposed to do, which is connect us. But if we don't have that tool, then yeah, we're kind of at a loss. So one thing is business leaders, I would put that at the top of your list. How do you get the people that you're working with the tools they need? You know, one of the things, access to the internet, cell phone, computers, those are really good investments in today's day and age. They're worth their price, just to be able to make sure people have access to you and you have access to them, so you can communicate and share, especially when we're literally on a lockdown. Well, I hope that's helpful for what was the general consensus to this question? Are we kind of in the same sense as balance a positive and a negative, or?
I think we are more positive, and as Veronica is writing now, more than 50% of her colleagues said that they were more productive than at the office. I met also many entrepreneurs who are capitalizing this new opportunity in terms of efficiency.
Right. I've noticed that too as well. I'm currently coaching and training a large organization right now, enterprise level, the second largest computer company. And we've noticed the same thing. The productivity shot up. And I don't want to go too deep into it now, but a lot of the reason, I think, is because people know they aren't as productive when they're at home because they're distracted. And because of that, they end to sit in front of that computer 10, 11, 12 hours a day, feeling as though they're going to make up for the time that they aren't spending like they would have in the office. My guidance to everybody on like that is to stop doing that. Your life's right in front of you. Your children, your kids, your husbands, your wives, phone calls, all the stuff that happens at home that you get to kind of be distracted from when you're in office, they're there. Those are just as valuable. There is no balance between work and life. There's just life. And right now our lives are shoved together. So I always tell people to put their attention into what's in front of them at that point. If you don't spend time with your kids and give them 30 minutes of you at 100% dedicated, they're going to interrupt you every 5 minutes and you're going to get nothing done in what you're trying to focus on, and they're not going to be satisfied. So those of you who are out there trying to manage as parents as well and as a partner and working in business, you can't do it all at once. So I always just tell people, focus at that moment on what's important. If you spend 2 hours in front of your computer getting something done, get away, go spend some time with your children, with your partner, with your family, doing those things, and turn it off for a minute. And I promise not only will your brain thank you, but your productivity will as well. Well, I just want to round this out. The reason I usually like to start at a check-in, and this is something I recommend you do when you're having meetings, get a sense of how people are feeling. Ask them, how do you feel about this meeting we're about to have? Are people trepidatious and worried? Are we about to talk about a tough topic that makes them uncomfortable? Are they excited? It's really good insight because it helps you in how you communicate. And we have to be very focused in this medium and in this time to make sure that we're communicating properly. So asking people how they feel at the very beginning of something really opens them up to expose some vulnerability, builds a connection between you and them right off the bat before you even get into the subject material. It's a very simple exercise, as you can see. And it will spawn some really good dialogue too, I think, when you're on a video chat maybe. But if you'd like, we can progress and I can try and share some more information.
Yes, please.
So welcome to the new normal. Hopefully there's a little bit of humor in this visual, but this is what's going on, right? There's some serious stuff, but at the same time, it's almost ridiculous. See if it plays here. This is your commute to the office now, right? This is the new dress code. I'm sure everybody's heard that by now, as well as your office. This is school. Again, any of you have kids, Where are they all day? This isn't like you just have to work from home now. You have to live at home with your kids. And this is daycare. I can't count on my hand how many times we've had an additional person in our meeting of the age of 2 or 3. And the truth is, it's really fun. And this is your weekend, right? I'm sure someone out there has completed Netflix by now. So with all the humor aside, it is difficult. We are isolated. We are on our own. So much so that people are actually looking forward to going back to work, right? But that's not going to happen. Okay, and the reason that's not going to happen is because everything's changed. Everything is different, I should say. And there are repercussions that are going to follow from COVID-19. It's not just about dealing with right here and now. It's accepting that things are going to be different when we come out of this. It's not going to go back to the way it was. Nothing does anyways. It just changes happen very small. This is something really big. So it is going to change how we interact with each other from a day-to-day, how we treat each other, and what our expectations are, right? This is basically, the future just got here really fast. Businesses have already been setting up for working remote, managing teams from distances and everything, but now it's in our lap and we have to do it. So there are a lot of lessons we can learn from this. And the fact that everybody's trying to look at this in a positive light is a good thing. So on that topic, do you see this as a crisis or an opportunity?
What do you think? Of course, I see many opportunities in the next period, but I work also with many entrepreneurs who are affected by the new context. Maria has a point. I think the right answer is opportunity after the crisis. So we can talk about the two economic cycles.
Well, this is about perspective, right? So the Chinese actually have a symbol for crisis, and it's made out of 2 characters. The first character means a time of danger, and the second character means a time of opportunity. It's like a coin has 2 sides, right? It all depends on which side you're looking at, but it's all part of the same thing. So ultimately, crisis is both. If you never had stress, you'd never move, right? If there was never a problem, there's nothing to fix. So these 2 things go hand in hand. And it's not just about determining whether or not this is hard and stressful. I mean, change is hard and stressful. But those of us who rise to the challenge and fix it, those ones who grab a hold of this is like, hey, I actually have a chance to fix something. That is the entrepreneurial spirit. Entrepreneurs are people who want to get out there and identify the problem and fix it. And right now, you have a ton of little problems right in front of you that are just screaming for your attention. They're just kind of caught up in this big, large thing. So speaking of businesses or leaders who've looked at this, there are a ton of businesses that actually came out or were developed during a time of crisis. Disney, for example, that is a global, has a global footprint and everything, worth billions of dollars, actually started during the Great Depression back in the early 1900s. And they basically started because everyone was depressed, and Walt Disney decided to draw cartoons to make people happy. And look what it's turned into. Groupon, Slack, I mean, you can only imagine how Slack's performing right now, but they also came out of a financial crisis that we had in the States. What you need to do is start thinking differently. Sounds like you're already in the direction of trying to be positive about it, but that attitude isn't going to get you very far if you don't know what step to take next. So if we can change our attitude and embrace change, if we can change our attitude and embrace change, now we can start leading an agile company. So what does that mean? I know a lot of you are in the software industry. I know agility is a word that pops up even in the creative space. But what I want to reinforce about it are some of the things that get skipped over and ignored. Agility is a mindset. Agility is about thinking differently. Do you mind going back just 1 second? Agility is about thinking differently, about success. In software, the reason this methodology came about is because there are constant changes, and the environment we're working in is unpredictable. Basically, because software by its nature is innovative. You're not building the same tool every time, and you're not using the same language or same technology. It's constantly changing. And because of that, anytime you introduce a new technology, it changes the way people use it. So that impact then changes the technology you built. So you're in this cycle where you're constantly learning. Now, that's really hard if all you hear is criticism. But if you're realizing it's part of building a product, part of providing a service, is constantly getting feedback, then what you do is you make this about individuals. You make it about people. That's where design starts anyways. Design begins with a person and ends with a person. Someone needs something, you bring it to them, and you get feedback if it worked. That's how you can do every service, every product, every business. That humans are at the center of all this. Humans make the work, humans buy the work, humans do the work, right? We got to center there. So we've got to put ourselves in a position where we can really embrace change and respond to all the feedback we're getting instead of getting married to a plan. And that's what's happening right now in this area. It's changed a lot at once. So if we're agile, then we can embrace this as the opportunity and not just change our mindset and think it's going to be positive, but we know what to do about it because we've got our ears open too. So on the topic of mindset, Simon Sinek calls this the infinite game. Great read. But what we really want to think about is, where are you positioned right now? If your business was moving just fine and it was all figured out and it fixed, and all of a sudden this incident happens and now your business doesn't work anymore, then how stable was your business in the beginning? If your employees were all doing great, but now all of a sudden we have this incident and they're not with you or supporting you anymore, why is that? If someone is afraid of doing something because they don't want to do it the wrong way, then what kind of environment were you actually creating in the first place? How do you build a business that lasts if you're just focused on right now? So again, this is an opportunity to reframe the way we've been looking at our business in the long term. And that's by adopting a growth mindset, right? So to summarize, agility is about adapting to change. It's just saying, you know what, this is part of it. It is a constant. It's always going to happen. So how do I factor this in as part of my process? How do I make my business not only ready for change, but how do I make it benefit when things happen? How can I be there quick to respond, quick to adjust? How can I be flexible? How can I adapt to these changes and be the first to win? So on that topic, I heard some feedback when we asked the question related to working remotely, and that some people are trying to work with it. What are you doing to adapt to it? How are you adapting to remote work? I'd love to hear some feedback in the chat.
Tim, we have one entrepreneur, and she said that she has a business in hotel industry, and it's very hard for her team to work remote.
Well, yeah, it's a physical building. It's a physical space.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the challenges you're having in working remote? Is it the work itself, or is it just the connecting and being able to talk about what to do next?
Tech, software, new systems. Roxana is working in these verticals. And Tim, I have a good news for you that we have now in our community more than 120 people. So
well, it's good. It's a hot topic, and it's good that everyone's stepping in to listen. If anything, I just hope I can give them something they can use as they move forward. Because like like we said earlier in the presentation, this is the new normal. So how do we adapt to this, and how do we move forward with it?
Alexandru has a good point, and I consider this is an important one based on my experience. Also, how do we motivate our people that work in our team, in our industry, in the new reality?
Well, I have some insight on that, and if you'll be patient, we'll get to that just in a moment. But why don't we go ahead and progress? A lot of these questions are even just to get you to think about whether or not you're actively taking steps, or if you're succumbing to the things that are happening around you. So when it comes to remote work, when it comes to motivating employees, when it comes to building connections, the little things are the big things. It's having coffee. It's going to the water cooler, as they say. It's the person that sits next to you. You know, it's going to lunch with someone in the office, right? It's staying late and helping them with work. It's that shared camaraderie, and it's missing. Our daily routines are upside down. So to get to the motivation part, we'll get there in just a second, and you'll see how these things are related. Think about what's missing right now from your daily routine. And I don't just mean you as an individual in your role, but just from how your business was functioning. What did you do when you came in the morning? Who was the first person you said hello to? What was the challenge that happened the day before that you came in that was motivating you or one of your employees or partners that's coming in and saying, man, that felt great, let's do that again? I mean, it comes down to cigarette breaks. Sometimes people just need 15 minutes to talk about their problems so they can solve them together. It's, hey, I need a moment to step away. Can you spend time with me? Sometimes it's just walking into an office and see that someone else is working and you feel unproductive, so you want to get working. It's these little things that we can't replicate when we're on our own. So think about what's missing from those daily routines and what are the most challenging ones to try and get back into the game. Also might want to start thinking about what else needs to become part of your daily routine, right? All these things boils down to human connection. Essentially, that's what I'm getting at, is we don't know how to build relationships with each other very well, especially in the work environment, because it's based on proximity, right? You don't actively create shared experiences. They're created for you. You and your teammate, or you as a business owner and your employees work together through something and come out on the other end. And that experience brings you together. But who designed that experience? Who beyond hiring someone and bringing them in the office, compensating them for their effort, guiding them on where they want to go in their career and giving them the opportunities, who's building the relationship? It almost feels organic and natural. And now all of a sudden we don't have proximity. So where's our human connection? Where's that relationship? We're really bad, even though you think it's the most human thing, especially in the work environment, we're really bad at actively building our relationships. They seem to just happen. So we need to actively connect, especially with the people working for and with us. We've got to get human again. A quote I like on connecting is, if you think about connection, it's this ability to identify with people and relate to them. And the value of this is that you actually have influence over them. And not in a manipulative way, but in a persuasive way. When you understand someone and they understand you, you're closer and you're connected. And that connection, it gets stronger and stronger over time if you invest in it. So I want you to think, and maybe we don't have to get in a chat with this unless there is, but I want you to kind of ask yourself, as a leader, how can you connect with the people that are working with and for you? And I don't mean, physically I can, call them on the phone, look on the internet. What are things about them that you knew because they shared it with you, right? We have friends and colleagues in work that have families, that have children, that have pets, that have struggles. We learn about those things in the office, but we never ask about it, right? We follow up, but someone shares it. So now we have to switch the game. We've got to reach out and actually ask people to talk to us about their personal lives, as opposed to those being things that just come up on their own. So Again, these chat opportunities, if there are things that pop in your mind or challenges around it, throw it in. Otherwise, I'll just give you a little bit more insight on some of the things that I try and help people do. It sounds silly, but it's helping them act like people. We tend to focus on human doings instead of human beings in the work environment. We measure ourselves and the people around us based on our productivity, based on how much work we get done or the impact we made towards a proposal or a product or a service or an outcome. We're constantly looking for validation from the people around us and the people above us as good workers. But we forget that we have to be good human beings. And you know, companies usually have values, but are they usually actionable? Are they things you live? Are they habits that you reinforce in the office? Or are they just an organic way that we socialize and associate? We don't really bring those things to the surface. They tend to be underlying. And what's really important this time, now that we're separated and we're not in proximity and those natural, forgive me if I'm speaking too fast, if those natural mores that are created within a culture, within a tribe, aren't actually being designed and being directed, it's going to be evident when you're separated from each other, because no one has anything to latch onto and hold on to and call, hey, this is how we belong. So it's really important to you as a leader, if you want to maintain your the work ethic that you've put in place, the contributions from people, you have to now start thinking of them not as resources, but as human beings first. One of the things you can think about right now is how overwhelming it is for them to be receiving information on COVID-19, coronavirus. Think of the social media, think of their friends and the family they're talking to, think of the internet, the news, the TV, and the fact that they're all alone with this information. They're drinking from a fire hose right now. They're completely overwhelmed and they're unsure. And I'm pretty confident that they're all looking to you for some level of direction, because you're the one that's providing them essentially with the profession and the income to actually move forward with the things they want to do in their life. And right now they're at a standstill and they're freaked out and they're scared. So how can you help them overcome this fear? Very simply, be the source of credible information. Go out and find the information that's valuable from the right resources and share that with the people that you're working with and for. If you do that, not only are you going to let them know it's important to you as well, but you can stifle some of the concerns. You can let them know that you're on top of it. It matters to you just as much. You're collecting knowledge as well. You understand why they have their fears there. And you're trying to put something together to move forward. But again, you don't have to have all the answers. You do need to be available. You need to be visible. You need to show them that you're understanding why they feel the way they do or what they're hearing, so you can create an actual safe space, not a physical one, but an emotional one between you and the people working with you, so they feel comfortable coming to you with problems and concerns. Again, it's not a proximity thing anymore. They have to actually actively schedule a meeting, pick up a phone, do something to get to you. So you've got to think about bridging that gap. The best way, again, to do that is be the resource. Be the person that they know they can come to when they have questions or concerns.
Can you give us an example in terms of being understanding? Okay, I think it is easy to be available, visible, but understanding, can you give us more tricks and advices?
The most important word, I think, in any relationship is empathy. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to think about how someone else is feeling when you yourself are in the same situation.
And Lorena has a very nice point here. She's together with us on the chat, empathy and compassion for their day-to-day life and the needs. She's talking, of course, about her team and her people.
So I think that's great. And it also spawns something else that I thought was really interesting when I learned it. Do you guys know what the difference is between, between knowledge and wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge plus compassion. Mm-hmm. And again, that was something that really struck me, because it's not about having more information, but it's understanding when and how to share it. It's It's being empathetic to the other person where they are and what they need now in order to move forward. And if you want to be a good leader, you need to be a wise one. And that's what understanding means. That to the question, and I appreciate it so much, Claudio, and everyone who's participating in this dialogue. Understanding is knowing, is recognizing where someone is and giving them what they need at that time. And again, sometimes it's just giving them an ear, right? If the people that feel they have a safe space with you and they can share what their concerns are, now all you have to do is follow up by letting them know that their well-being is important, more important than even the work. Because let's be honest, if you don't have people to do the work, nothing's going to get done. So you have to make sure that not only you're taking care of your people and their well-being, their health, their mental health, their physical health, their stress levels are down. Be that person to let them know it's just as important to you as it is to them. They will open up, they will share with what they need. Give it to them. You're not going to have people trying to take advantage of this situation and get things that aren't deserved. You'll be so surprised that if you reach out a hand, how many people are going to take it and then do the same thing. The other thing is, if you want productivity, you need happy people, right? People who are in a bad mood don't do good work. But people who love what they're doing and who they're doing it with and for produce amazing work. I mean, think of the reason that you're independent of an entrepreneur. Think of the reason you're in the industry or the profession you're in. You're either really good at it, really passionate, or both. So how do you give that to the people that are stepping into the roles that they want to do? They're the same. And then with this time, if you need to make them happy, understand it's important, but most importantly, give them flexibility. Like I was discussing earlier, recognize they have families, they have other things going on in the home they need to deal with, and reinforce to them that, look, it's important that you can focus on the work and your family and not have to try and juggle those two things. So if you need an extra hour, if you need to push things off to the afternoon, if you need to be flexible in your schedule in order to accommodate the goals, take it. I trust you. And you'll be so surprised. I mean, and I'm sure some of you are already getting this feedback if you're instituting this and giving them that flexibility. So surprised just what it does for morale and how people really want to contribute. Because ultimately they want to belong to something that's important. When it comes to actually communicating, as a leader, be as transparent as you can, be honest, and be vulnerable. Again, as a leader, you're setting an example of how to conduct yourself in the office, how to deal with people in the environment. And when you're separated and people are reaching out for questions, give them info. You can't over-communicate in a time like now. You can't. People just want to know, are you scared too? Are you worried? Do you have the same kind of pressures and concerns as I do? From a technical thing, make sure you sit down with your team and talk about what tools you're using and how. Don't mandate a policy, but understand how people are using them. Maybe the teams that you're working with use IM for personal dialogue, right? And use email when it comes to business. Fine. Just say, let's not talk business on IM. Let's not merge these channels because we might slip it up. When do you use a phone call? When do you use a video? When are these things supposed to happen? And talk to the team about it. Get them to tell you how they're doing it, because again, you're trying to give them an environment that's healthy and safe for them. So they need to have a say in this. The most attractive part of this is you will learn more and more the more you engage your team and ask them to be involved and help guide the solution. The more you can let go of having to be the one with all the answers, and maybe your job as a leader is just to ask the right questions and bring your talented team the right problems. But it's not all about work. Don't just talk about work, okay? The things that are missing, as we discussed earlier in the office, are things you need to bring back in. So I want to jump into video for just 1 second. There's a reason 300 million participants a day are on Zoom. 2017, I think, Zoom was like 65 million in revenue. They're at 650 now, right? So again, another company that's highly benefiting from this crisis. And they went through some struggles. They made some mistakes, but they're still growing now because this is the way we communicate, and it will be for the future. One thing I want to say, though, this is an extremely powerful medium, and every opportunity you have to use a video conferencing call, use it. 80% of the information that we gain in a conversation from another human is in body language. nearly 60% of that is in the face alone. So if you're not looking at people's faces, if you're not hearing their voices, then you're not having a conversation, you're having a monologue. The goal is to have dialogues here. This is when we connect again. This is when we get to see how people are feeling and what they're doing. This is a chance for us to actually expose ourselves to each other and say hello. With my teams, first thing I say when we jump into a meeting, or at least I used to say, is video on, mics on. Now it's a norm. Now we're excited to see each other. Dialogue comes natural. I don't know if you've ever been into a meeting where there's 3 or 4 people waiting for the presenter or for someone else to come in, and everyone's got their cameras off, everyone's silent waiting. Those aren't participants. Those are people who are held hostage. Those are people who have to be there. They're not people who want to be there. And your job is to remind them that even in this challenging time, you're giving people an opportunity to do work they get to do, not work they have to do. So use that. Give them the tools they need, give them the support they need, and then empower them. And you do that by trusting them. Now, as an Agile coach, as I stated earlier, my job is to act as a servant leader, right? I'm trying to create teams that are self-managing and that are self-organized. They do things on their own. So let me ask you, if you know the answer to this riddle, what do leaders create?
Okay, dear friends, what do leaders create? Value, teams, money. I don't know, maybe you have better answers. More leaders, Victor.
Yes.
Good
Nice
one.
job. Leaders create leaders. And when I learned this, again, in my role as a Scrum Master, as a servant leader, it completely changed the way I conducted myself and the way I looked at the people I was working with and what my responsibility was to them. If my job is to create other people who can lead, then my focus is on demonstrating how we should be conducting ourselves. My job is not telling people how to do their job, right? But leaving that up to them to figure out. In Agile, we have one role that's called our product owner that's or Scrum specifically, that is responsible for bringing problems to the team to solve. And the biggest challenge they usually have is they don't bring problems, they bring requests. Make one of these, build one of those, do this. They're not bringing the problems that are going to deliver value to their customers, or that are going to grow their company, or that are going to introduce them into a new market. They're trying to bring in the things to build. If you want teams full of leaders that you can hand them a problem and they can run and go solve it, then you need to give them that space. You have to give them that trust that they're capable, they're competent, and they're going to bring you the solution before it's ready, when they need feedback. They're going to learn things from it, and they're going to grow. If you don't give your teams a chance to learn, they're never going to grow, and they're going to have what you've hired for the rest of their career. You want people who can step in and lead. And here's your answer to the question that came in about motivation. Something else I learned as my life as a creative director, you cannot motivate people. Okay, if you look up the definition of motivation, it's an external force that's pushing people in direction. But the truth is, motivation comes from the inside. Motivation is when someone finally decides they're going to do something. But as a leader, you can inspire them. If you think of motivation as sort of like a tank, and someone's motivated to work, they work, and then that tank gets empty. You got to fill it up again. What do you fill it up with? Inspiration. As artists, those that are in the creative space, this is creative minds, right? How often do you take a walk when you need to solve a problem, right? Feels like I'm getting away with the computer. The truth is you're gaining stimuli. How many people go to a museum when they just don't have a new idea? This is how the creative mind works. It needs inspiration as fuel to get motivated to move on the next thing. You've heard artists even say, well, I'm waiting for inspiration. Don't wait for it. Go get it. And if your team members don't appear motivated, they don't appear engaged, the best thing you can do is inspire them to engage. But you can't do that if your business isn't built on a purpose. So your ability to grow a business that can survive through a crisis like this or through the situation like this isn't just going to be on your own positive will. It's going to be because you're building something with purpose, right? And that's going to benefit not only your employees that want to help you achieve your goal, but that's what's going to attract all your customers, right? This is how you build your tribe. Marty Neumeier, who wrote The Brand Gap and 9 other core books on branding, which again, they're a quick read, they're whiteboard sessions that just give you the insight and information. He helped me understand what purpose is with this strategic pyramid. Now, terms like purpose, mission, vision, and goals, we often use them interchangeably. But if you simply look at this, purpose is something you're doing beyond making money. It's the reason you exist. It's why you're in the field that you're in, and it's why you're trying to grow something. It's bigger than you. And people want to belong to something that's bigger than them. All right? So if you can have your purpose, everything else will fall in place and the ways you go to achieve that. And you'd be surprised at how many people that believe in your purpose, in your reason, in your why, are going to want to help you get there. If you haven't seen Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, I recommend, if you need some inspiration, and also just take a look at this time when you really need to ask yourself, why does this business exist? Look up Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. In summary, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This is your core purpose. This is your principle. This is how Apple has a brand that outlives Microsoft, even though Microsoft is everywhere. This is how they get people who will buy the next iPhone just because it has a new digit on top of it, because they're part of a tribe, because they want something more, and they want to belong to something that's more than them. If you can really find your purpose, if you can align your team through trust and connection, then you actually have this great opportunity to change the game. This is where you actually get to reimagine your industry. Most people don't get an opportunity like this. Everything seems simple and you have to make just one small tweak or one little thing, or there isn't a problem of scale that's out there to solve. Right now, every industry from hotels to coffee shops to graphic artists have got to rethink how they conduct their business. But don't just do it from your point of view. Think about everyone else who's going through the same situation. Think about the customers on the other end. So a good quote for this is the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence itself, but to act with yesterday's logic, right? If you think things are going to go back to normal and you can ride this out, you're going to be one of the businesses that falls to the wayside. But if you realize that there's a ton of lessons that can be learned from this and a lot of things you can put into place to not only make it sustainable, but make it thrive, well, you're going to be one of those businesses that actually walks out of here as a winner. You have to remember, people are stuck, they're isolated, they still need your service. They still need your product. They still need your business. There's just a gap there. And whoever can figure out how to fill this gap, whoever can come up with the new way of doing what's always been done, like I said, is going to be the winner. Some of you might know about design thinking. It's something that I've used consistently, not only in my design career, but just even in solving problems. If you can empathize with the person on the other end, if you can really think about everyone else that's in this situation that wants your service, wants your product, figure out why it is they want it, right? A coffee is just a coffee. I can make a coffee at home. What is it that I offered with my barista, right? A hotel is just a room. A bed's just a bed. What am I actually giving them that makes them want to go and use that? Is it just convenience, or is there something else going on? If you can tap into that, if you can really define what it is that you're providing to someone with your product or service, now you can come up with new ideas and new ways of getting that to them or providing it for them. And it's extremely powerful. Come up with a way, try it, learn from it, welcome criticism as feedback, go back to the drawing board and move. There are a ton of companies out there doing that right now. I mean, an Airbnb is a perfect example, right? Couldn't get a hotel somewhere, or the prices were too high, so you can sleep on an air mattress in my bedroom. Now look at Airbnb. They created a business without having physical assets. Uber's done the same thing. They don't own cars. Someone couldn't get a taxi. I can't get a taxi. What should I do? Well, what if, look at all these cars driving around. How can I give one of them $10 and they'll give me a ride? It's just looking at problems that are right in front of you. Right now, we just have a massive one that is impacting a ton of things. So for every problem that you're seeing right now, realize that's an opportunity. And the people that can figure out a new way to do that are going to be successful. But again, get to the other side of it. Think about how the person who's not getting your service is feeling and what they need in order to make it happen. Last but not least, everything is different. But nothing's really changed, right? Change is constant. It's always going to keep moving this way. The future will never be predictable. You can't expect this or plan this. We don't know if there's a second wave. We don't know how people are going to respond when they walk out of this. But the people that are actively trying to do something about it right now, those are the businesses that are going to thrive. Realize it's a huge opportunity. Lead with agility. Be flexible and ready for change. Realize how important it is to build human connections right now, because that's what's absent. Empower your people simply by trusting them and giving them purpose and vision of where you want to go, and let them take you there, and you'll change the game. So thank you for participating with me. I hope there's some insights and things you can use. I would love to open it up to questions and see if there's anything else I can share.
We are waiting for your questions, dear friends. We are together more than 100 people here enjoying Tim's presentation. I wonder, Tim, how do you see the needs and the concerns of founders as a team in this new context? And I think this subject is very relevant for many people, participants here, because many of them are not solopreneurs. They are working together with co-founders, and in terms of Scrum, of being agile based on their needs and fears, how do you see this co-founders relation now?
Well, I'm a co-founder of an agency in the States, and I have 4 partners. One of the best things is just the fact that even though I'm overseas right now in the States, we meet every week. We have a phone call, we have a coffee. We talk about what's going on, so we're up to speed and where things are. We don't talk business right away. It's kind of one of the underlying things. And also, we all agreed that the people who came into our business, they're partners too. They have just as much stake in this company being successful as we do. And so we don't put pressure on each other as partners to contribute something. We don't do this and that. If anything, we're learning how to let go. We're learning how to trust that the people need our business as much as we need our people. I don't know if that directly answers your question, but it's realizing that the reason we started this business was to grow together. It wasn't because we're going to get some financial gain. And I do know businesses that have broken up simply because money was the why, and not what they were doing underlying as a purpose.
It is a very nice topic. Also, this about inspiring our team. And one of the participants asked you, Tim, how can you inspire your employees in the new normality, in this context?
So one thing is to promote good habits. Doesn't sound so inspirational. But when you have team members that you're trying to build connections with, that you're trying to guide, that you're trying to motivate, and you want to inspire them, a lot of the meetings I have with them, I gamify. So I turn them into activities. One I just did the other day was I had every participant on a whiteboard, digital, write their names up there. And then I asked everybody to make a mark on somebody and talk about something they did in the past week that was really positive and productive, or was helpful, or just, I used to do this with candy in meetings, but now it's a stamp, right? They get a mark. And from there, that person needs to move on to the next and the next and the next. And for me, what's inspiring is how people communicate to each other about each other. It inspires them themselves, because all of a sudden the individual first didn't realize that their contribution had that kind of impact, and now it's brought out to the surface. It inspires them to look at how other people are acting. And then as a team, everybody walks out of there inspired, and I didn't do anything but ask a question. You can do so much more things when it comes to project work or planning or preparing something. We've got this medium, share a video. Let's watch something that's inspiring. We used to have meetings where we would do a TED Talk. I'm sure you're familiar. You know, they're 20-minute talks, and we would use that just to have a conversation about what we took out of it. And it's amazing if you just find the things that are inspiring to you and share them with your team. Let them know this is important too. Ask them to bring things back that inspire them. And I think you'd be really surprised, on what type of information actually fuels them, so you can learn what to share again, especially when it comes to art, when it comes to music, when it comes to all these things that are reflections of us as humans. And you'll start realizing how much they're using that already to direct in their lives. But I wish there was a single answer, but the truth is anything that I find inspiring, I try and share with the people around me, especially in the field of arts, in the field of design. You have an opportunity to challenge them to reach higher, right? Whether this crisis was here or not. As a leader, as someone who's bringing these opportunities, you got to remember you're also drawing the box around it. They want to meet your expectations. So how do you get them to bring in their expectations? How do you ask them to bring more of themselves than just hit your bar? I think it was Michelangelo who said he wasn't afraid of setting a goal he wouldn't reach. He was afraid of setting a bar that was too low, right? And so that's what inspiration is. So bring in challenges, bring ideas, bring in fuel, and ask others to do the same, and you'll be able to inspire them in ways that actually connect with them.
We have some more topics to be addressed here, dear team, and Alexandru Aron has a nice question. How should we motivate the people working in a coffee shop now while we are closed, and how to motivate them when we will go back to work? I think he has a nice subject here because we are talking about different motivations for this kind of business.
Right. And so I'm going to return back. Yeah, I'm going to return back to this idea of purpose, right? Do people work at a coffee shop because they love coffee, or do they do it because they love people? I'm sure there's a mix of the two, but let's be honest. If you don't enjoy the environment you're creating, the social aspect of it, you know, I like going to coffee shops. I like going to baristas. I like walking in there because people recognize me. They remember me. I feel like I'm part of something special. Think of the people. The music is part of that here and there. What are you doing for them that, if you think about it, people can't get it now either? If you can't go into a coffee shop, then you're not just missing out on coffee, because you could have made that on your stove before. So what is it that's missing, and how do you bring that to those people? How can we do that in an environment? My best suggestion to motivate them is to try and bring back the atmosphere that you had created before. Now, how you do that is up to you, but like, for example, my teams, usually at the end of a sprint, once we did the work, at the end, we had what was called a retrospective. And we would sit down and talk about what went well and what didn't. But it was usually gamified. Sometimes it would go after hours, and we'd sit down and have a drink together and just talk about ourselves and our process and the way we were working, like you would when you leave the office. We can't do that now, so we do it virtually. We schedule a meeting, we sit down together, we all get together at the end of Friday, and we relax together. We do it on Mondays and Tuesdays. We have a coffee time. Everybody jumps into a common room and sits down, and we have coffee together. So maybe a way to inspire coffee shop employees is to go ahead and say, hey, coffee hour, let's get together. Let's sit down like we used to do. Let's talk about those things. Let's reimagine it and use that space to talk about what it's going to be like when we go back. Use that moment to talk about the things we're going to do different now that we've had a chance to reflect. And start picturing that future, because we're not going to reach a future that we don't see.
Mm-hmm. Veronica wants to know your opinion about remote working, your personal opinion about this topic, pros and cons.
So let's focus on the pros. Like I said, I'm managing a team right now that has people from San Francisco to Dallas, Texas, to Boston, Canada, Ireland, England, Hungary, all the way to India. And what I've noticed is that there's not as much opportunity to interrupt the team. Now, it is hard to schedule because we've got 10.5 hours across. So the time that people are meeting together is really important. So it shows the value of not only organizing and coordinating meetings, but making sure that they're focused on the topic at hand. A lot of times we have meetings and they just go every direction, right? You've been in a meeting where everybody's just sitting down waiting because they get to escape from what they're normally doing, or they feel they have to go there. You can't do that now. You can't just be in every meeting, because this is how we conduct business from remote. So the positive is that the meetings we have, especially when you're spun across the world or far away, those meetings are really important, and therefore they need to be real focused. So I found that the teams, or the people in them, are much more focused on getting the task done. And meetings become working meetings, not talking about what's going to get done, but they do work. The other thing that's great about being remote, as I was alluding to, is the fact that you can't interrupt them as much. You can't constantly be over their shoulders. And a lot of these business owners who micromanage learn that you can't micromanage from a distance. And the truth is, most companies I've gone to, if not all, the biggest problem was an issue of lack of trust and someone managing someone, because we have companies that built themselves from the ground up. An individual started this business, worked with another partner, started hiring as they grew, but did every single part of it. It's very hard to let go and trust someone else to do that. In this remote space, you can't be there. You don't have the time or the ability to give them everything. The other super powerful thing, if you haven't heard of the Pareto Rule or the Pareto Principle, basically it states that 80% of your results come out of 20% of your work. And I'm noticing that with remote work and everybody being stretched in distance, that all the little things that happen in the office, all the distractions, all the chatter, all the dialogue, all the disruptions, all those things are gone now. And all you have is the ability for someone to sit down, figure out what they need to do, go do it, and come back and meet again. And you also don't have managers or owners stepping in, spending 80% of their time interrupting and distracting and driving and directing everybody. They can't do it. So all they can do is focus on their 20%. That's what I want you to do right now. That's the goal of this presentation. Realize all you have to do right now is be there to support the people that are working for you. Give them a purpose to do it. Inspire them to think bigger. And let them know that you understand what they're going through, because you're going through it too. You don't have to give them answers. Just put your energy and manage that 20%, because what you give to those people is going to give you the 80% out of all of them. That's why I'm noticing giving people the flexibility and the space they need to manage their own time and get things done when they can and where they can has produced amazing results.
Tim, one last subject, please, from how to help the team to take the change well. Because we are talking now about the change as a new norm. And yes.
No, I'm sorry. The change is the only constant. There's always been change. The truth is, people get complacent and comfortable because they think things are always going to be the way they are. This is just thrown in their face that it's not true. So the psychological aspects of getting someone to accept change are varied, and unique. So all I can really say is there's not going to be one answer for everyone. You're not going to go to the team and say, hey, this is the way it is, everyone accept it. If this is an individual thing, so it goes back to the idea of creating connection, and creating a culture that's about that, where people are safe and comfortable expressing their own concerns and vulnerabilities. Why is it so hard to change? I always tell people aren't afraid of change. They're afraid of changing.
Mm-hmm.
People are okay if things around them are different, as long as they don't have to do anything. And that's why you've got to realize that they themselves don't want to change. They're okay that things are different around them. So the only way you can actually bridge that gap is in a one-on-one, right? Schedule coffees with everybody, right? This week right now, I have 4 meetings scheduled just to spend 15 minutes with one of the people who's on my team and have a coffee and talk about nothing related to work. Just chat. And we talk about their change. We talk about their struggles. We talk about, hey, how do you deal with your kids, Tim, when they're jumping into meetings and you have to focus and this and that? And I ask, how do they deal with theirs? And we learn from each other. We find out we're both dealing with the same thing. And then once we learn that, we share that with other people. And all of a sudden, we've created this culture where people can depend on each other. And the thing that's changed is they're no longer alone. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid it's all up to them and they've got to do something. I know it kind of goes around, but the only way I know how to accept change is let them know they're not alone, that everyone is going through it, and figure out how to get them to reach out to each other and collaborate, work together, and support each other and be vulnerable. And that's not going to happen if you as a leader don't do the same thing.
Thank you, Tim, for your answers, and you're very nice and so close to our entrepreneurs. From the other side of the screen, the feedback is good. They are all happy and they are looking to follow you in the next period. Do you have a blog, a site, a platform where we can reach you in the near future?
Nothing overwhelming at the time, but I will share that information with the Academy. I have a couple things that you could find, but right now I just want to promote you. I want to promote the people on the call. I want you, if for any reason you got anything out of this of energy, grab a hold onto it and share it, right? The minute you start putting these ideas in practice, they become real, and you'd be so amazed at how everyone else is looking for the same thing. So the best thing you can do for me is take 1 or 2 things that you might have learned from this, even if it's just reinforce things you already know, but put it in practice and share this with other people and get them going. And I promise you, everything will be better on the other side. It'll be amazing. And even when we have even more disruptive change, because we should expect it by now.
Thank you, dear friends, and we invite you to the next webinars in the next 2 weeks. And the next webinar will be very interesting too. We will meet Sylvia Pop. She is a trainer for the Salesforce in UniCredit Bank. And the topic is very, very relevant, in my opinion, how to adapt the business plans, how to change our business plans in the new normality. I think I'm sure that we'll have a hands-on perspective. I know Sylvia. She's connected. She understands business models, and she will be a very good speaker next week at the same hour. See you, dear friends, and keep in touch on Facebook and on UniCredit.ro online platform. Follow Academia Minților Creative public pages. See you soon, and most importantly, stay safe. See you.
Ciao.